I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Getting to the point, but taking the scenic route to get there. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back. 100.7 The Score. It is the Bottom Line. Let's go to the chat line here. Craig, I think you could convince the Lady Raiders they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, I saw that. I just think they're capable. I don't know that they will, but I think they're capable because they've shot themselves in the foot about 3 or 4 games that, and I realize they're not a championship team, but I do think they could have won some more games if they hadn't made their own mistakes.
Yeah, I agree.
They weren't just run off the floor by talent every time.
Yeah, so they finished 4 and 16.
Mm-hmm.
I think they easily could have been 8-8.
Yeah,
with 10 more possessions.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that.
Now, could they have been 12 and 6 or 12 and 8 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
That's probably going too far, but I do think this was a 500 team with 10 different breaks. Now, that's a lot of breaks in a basketball season.
Right.
And a lot of it was self-inflicted, so you can't really, be too mad at them because it was self-inflicted. Yeah. But if they're better at passing or making better decisions,
in the opportune times that they did not get a break but gave up a break,
right?
It just was amazing. And Jordan Merritt,
the injury.
At the beginning of the season, you wonder in the back of your mind how much better they'd have been if they'd have had her. But even without her, I agree with you. 7 and 9, 8 and 8. I think that was possible, and it wasn't, and they didn't do it. So it's moot point. But I do think they're capable of beating somebody. I don't know if they're going to get the opportunity. They may lose tonight against Utah. I think they've got a legitimate chance to beat Utah.
I agree.
We'll wait and see what happens.
Earlier, I brought up the moment in the basketball game last night where the ESPN guys, it was a former NBA guy, was talking and said, Kerwin's not a scorer for him, and then he hit the step-back 3. Somebody commented, Kerwin averages 5 a game. He's not a scorer for us. There were several other comments back and forth about that moment in the show. I just thought it was a funny moment.
Yeah.
It was funny timing.
Yeah.
I mean, to say a guy's not a scorer and then for him to hit a wild step-back 3, it's like, oh, well, I guess he is a scorer.
Yeah.
I understood completely what the guy was saying. Kerwin is not a guy who creates his own shot. He is a guy who catches and shoots. That's a shooter, not a scorer.
Right.
That's like the difference between a basketball player and a hooper.
Right.
They're different things.
That's right.
And, I completely got what the guy was saying. He was 100% accurate. It was funny timing to say it as he's hitting a wild shot.
I would imagine if you looked at nearly every other team scouting report and Kerwin was on there, it's run him off the 3-point line. Make him be a driver. Make him, get rid of the ball, but don't let him, settle down and catch it and shoot it from a 3 because he's a good shooter. And I agree with the statement. He's not a scorer, but
he is a shooter.
At the end of the day, he's got some points.
Yes,
if he gets his shots off.
And confident Kerwin is a lot different than I'm going to stand here and not really do anything Kerwin.
That little stretch he had against Houston, was it Houston that he had to?
No, it was a home game. I think you ended up winning the home game. Was it? Who did you play at home before?
It was there. Was it Arizona State?
Yeah.
Arizona
State.
Yeah.
because you think you're going to break free, and then they come all the way back. Yeah.
And he had about 4 straight shots that he just ripped, and you can't do that without a little bit of
He can make
a little bit of.
He's a great
talent.
shooter. He's a great shooter. He's just not a scorer by what that guy was talking about.
If Kerwin and Chance find their confidence fully during the tournament, that's terrifying.
And you bring up a good point. Chance is a scorer. You can get him off the 3-point line. A la at Houston, he penetrated and went 1-on-1 against their best, and he won more battles than he lost. And that's what a scorer to me is, somebody that can find another way to put a point on the board.
Unless I'm missing something, Lunardi is usually the most accurate bracketologist. All right. I talk about Joe Lunardi a lot. I have personal beef with Joe Lunardi. Now, on the Bracket Matrix website, they have rankings, and Joe Lunardi is not highly ranked on that metric of guessing the tournament. But this is a guy who starts guessing tournaments April 15th.
Yep.
The week after the tournament for next year.
Yep.
I don't like Mel Kiper, who makes a living off mock drafts. I don't like bracketologists that just do bracketology all year long. Now, maybe I'm jealous. maybe that's something I want to do. But I generally don't, go talk about something else for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Go round out your portfolio with some college football or something. But to just be doing bracketology, it's engagement bait. It's rage bait. Now, for the final month of the season, once you hit February, once there's some metrics, once there's some analytics, very useful.
Right.
I love bracketology from February 1st to March 13th or whenever Selection Sunday is.
Play the first round. Play the first round of the conference schedule, then start penciling them in.
Oh yeah, I love bracketology in the stretch run. It's the dumbest thing in the world in June.
I agree.
And we're putting out these brackets in June, and people send them to me. They're like, "Oh, did you see last week? On 4th of July, we were a 4 seed, but then we got this guy in the portal, and now we're a 3 seed." Yep. It's like, no, we're nothing. We haven't played a game.
Yeah, you don't win many national championships on paper.
No. Well, now, of course, I'm sure Lunardi does hard work and is involved and does all the things. But good grief, man. It grinds my gears. It grinds my gears. But I pay way more attention to some of the nitty-gritty and the JBR or whoever it is, bracketville.wordpress.com. I pay attention way more to those than Joe Lunardi.
He is another bracketologist to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's all the same.
I mean, I don't know what his formula is, but I mean, he's a guy that puts together a bracket. I mean, I don't think he has any more insight to whether Cooper Flagg's got a high ankle sprain than anybody else does,
Right.
And so I don't know. I'm with you, though. Trying to guess who's going to be on the 4 line in June that's kind of a waste of time, I would think. I have a question along those lines.
Let's do it next.
Okay. We'll get it when we come back.
Okay. Clint says, I sent you those brackets in confidence. I don't think it was Clint. All right. We'll be back after this. 100.7 The Score. It's the bottom line.
Getting to the point, but taking the scenic route to get there. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back, 100.7 The Score. It is the bottom line. Sometimes you got to wait for those bumpers to really hit before you can talk. We are talking a lot of Texas Tech athletics today. We've got baseball, basketball, Lady Raiders. We also have some drama here. We got some drama on the chat line. This texter says he thought that IMHO was in my humble opinion.
Huh.
So is it humble or honest? That's a question.
I've never heard the H before.
Really? I've only ever read it. Like as an acronym. I don't know if I just assumed it was honest. It could be both. I don't think it's one way or the other.
Well, that's like how often do you hear someone say like, "Oh, SMH" or "LOL"?
Yeah, I think the context is important.
Being humble is being honest.
Yeah.
Being honest is probably being humble.
Humility there.
They're interchangeable. Okay, quick question.
Okay.
Men's basketball, 2 20-minute halves. The only collegiate game that has halves. Do you want quarters or do you want to leave it halves? And why would you want to change it to quarters?
It's the only basketball in the world that doesn't have, right? It's not just collegiate sport. It's the only basketball that's that way. So, does it change the game at all? I don't think so. It probably has some mechanical changes like resets, fouls, or you probably get a couple of more bonus shots there early in the first half, maybe. Maybe you change some timeouts or something. You probably still have first half and second half timeouts. To me, the biggest change would be you get that extra media timeout in the middle. Yep. But they already take the under 12. So
the one change that if they did it that I would, and I don't like it in the women's game because I think it actually costs the Lady Raiders a game. I don't like it when you call timeout that you get the ball at half court. Simply because Lady Raiders were turning the ball over with a press, and the other team was having a tough time. In fact, they called 2 back-to-back timeouts.
Yeah, the auto advance.
Yeah, and I'm not a real big fan of advancing it to half court, but I'm right there with you. I'm for 4 quarters. I am for 4 quarters, and if you make them, 10-minute quarters, or I'm all for it. You're bringing 2 more strategic quarter-ending plays into play and use of the clock.
Yeah.
It's just. I think it's an addition that needs to happen.
I agree, and I'm honestly surprised they haven't done it.
Yeah,
because you've changed so much to match the FIBA rules and the NBA rules.
And international, like you said, and Olympic basketball all have quarters. I don't know why we've stuck with it so long.
I think literally every basketball league in the world.
Yeah.
Except for men's D1, because I think potentially even the lower levels of college has quarters.
Yeah.
It's just like the D1, D2. All right, that was a question today. Now it's time for the question of the day.
The bumper would usually play here, but we're working on some OpEx stuff behind the scenes. But anyway, so
good to know.
Jamie's question of the day, brought to you by someone not named Jamie. Oh man, I wish I remembered that. Anyway, so your water isn't hard, something like that. But anyway, so my question from was inspired from last night. I was cutting audio out here at midnight, and I was listening to some random sports talk show that was on the radio, and they asked this question, and I figured it'd be a great addition for the next time I do question of the day. But starting today, out of any team, whether it be college, professional sports, if you are keeping up with Australian rules, football, whatever, which team do you think has the best chance to go back-to-back winning a title? So it can't be the Eagles right now. It would have to be starting this year, going back-to-back. Which team do you think has the best chance to do that?
So which football team has a chance to win the next 2?
Any professional team.
Oh, any professional team chance to win the next 2. Ooh, interesting. The Dodgers.
That's good.
Now, I know that would be a three-peat, and I don't know that that's happened very often in baseball. So I would go Dodgers in Major League Baseball. In the NBA, man, can the Thunder get over the hump? Can the Cavs, because those are the two best teams right now. Should I say the mean thing and do the Lakers?
I was thinking it.
In the football, I guess it probably still is the Eagles or the Chiefs. I don't really see anybody else in a position. What about you? What do you think?
I'm going to surprise people with my NBA choice. I think San Antonio's going to have a couple of chances with the Wembanyama, and if they add some pieces, and if Popovich comes back, and Wembanyama will have, a little bit of, experience.
Calories.
Yeah. And salary.
Peanut butter sandwiches.
Football. I would like to think that the Chiefs have a chance, but I really kind of thinking out of the box a little bit. Not real far out of the box, but I'm not real sure the Commanders aren't setting themselves up.
Yeah.
I mean,
my Commanders.
Yep. I just I love their quarterback.
Me too.
I love Dan Quinn's defensive ability of putting people in the right positions. Yeah. And Cliff's done a good job of putting Jaden Daniels in a position to use what he does best. And I don't know. I don't think they have the talent right now, but I think if they can accumulate some, and I'm sure they're going to make some trades. They've already made one, hadn't they? Didn't they get somebody just recently?
Yeah, they added
Debo
from the 49ers.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking the Commanders may be an up and coming team, and I just don't know if they're good enough to win it though. That's the problem.
Yeah. I would have said the Lions. If you asked me this before last year.
Yeah.
But two new coordinators. What is that going to look like? The roster is just a little bit different year to year. I really think they had their best window this year to go all the way, and they just couldn't do it. So, I mean, I think the Packers could get hot. I don't see them winning 2 in a row. I really have liked what the Bears have done this offseason, but that's a ridiculous thing to say that they would win 2 in a row.
I tell you a team that I think could win 1, but I don't know about going back-to-back, is the Chargers. I think Harbaugh is the right guy at the right place. I think Justin Herbert's a good quarterback. I just don't know about their pieces. I don't know. They just lost, Bosa today or yesterday?
Yeah, Joey, they released him yesterday.
And so I think they've got some talent. But that and Denver too. But unless something happens, I don't see anybody winning that division other than Kansas City for any immediate time.
A lot of people like what the Broncos are doing, but I don't. Again, they seem like more of a one-hit wonder, just get hot in the playoff kind of team like the Chargers would be.
Yeah, and I'm not. I think Bo Nix is really good, but I don't know that he's championship good.
All right, selfishly, I will add the Texas Rangers.
Why not?
Why not? Why not us? Why not us, huh?
Yeah, they could be as good as anybody. If they're pitching, if they stay away from the hospital, they're going to be okay.
They have a kid named Emiliano Teodo who made 20 starts last year in upper-level play in the minors and had like a 1.98 ERA. They're trying him out at closer in the spring. Touching triple digits. Wicked slider.
If that's
disgusting.
the case, they've got to feel pretty good about some starters.
Yeah.
They've got to feel like, hey, we're not, to try him out. That's pretty good.
Back after this, 100.7 The Score.
getting to the point, but taking the scenic route to get there. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back, 100.7 The Score. Back to the text line. This texter says he was certain, they were certain, I don't know if it's a he, they were certain it was honest, but looking it up, there's split opinions, leaning towards humble. Huh. So you learned something.
And who says you don't learn anything on this show?
That's right. This texter says, keep the game in halves. We don't need longer games. I don't think the games would be longer at all. You just trade a quarter break for a media timeout. Yep,
that's right. That's exactly right.
You basically just have a set media timeout instead of a floating media timeout.
Right. Exactly.
So it's the same game.
I don't think it would lengthen the game at all.
No, and it's not a 5-minute quarter break. It's a minute, just like a full timeout.
And I don't think it would shorten it very much, but I don't foresee it lengthening the game at all.
Well, I guess a media timeout might be 2, but you know what I mean. For these college games, it's you get commercials in there, and whatnot. Oh, Chalupa says the Dallas Cowboys will win the next 2. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I don't see it. The Dallas Cowboys have freed up $50 million plus of cap space in the last 2 days. Ooh. We'll see what happens. An old man helping man here might want to avoid the Sharp heading out of town. Traffic backing up around Quaker.
And, speaking of the Cowboys and their cap space, if you'll remember back right at the end of the season, I think it was in some press conference or something, and Jerry and Steven were both in it. Jerry said, we are going to have to be better capologists. And you wonder if they haven't brought somebody in or some analytical, study was done on what they're doing or what they could do to get better at it or something, because these are moves that they haven't made a whole lot of in the past. So something's headed in that direction as far as capology and how they're going to use that money and so forth. And it's going to be interesting to see if they get a free agent, who it is and how they pay for it and so forth and so on. But it sure kind of seems like it's headed towards, and I don't mean this in a negative sense, but doing what the other teams do.
Yeah. All right, let's do a couple of dad jokes here. I guess do we have the bumpers back?
It's now time for the dad joke of the day.
Craig, do you know how to follow Will Smith in the snow?
Follow Will? No, I do not.
You follow the Fresh Prince.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, the clown. The only one of you buffoons who doesn't make me laugh.
Did I ever tell you how I met my wife there, Craig?
No.
It was Halloween. She was dressed as a slinky. Yeah, I saw her coming down the stairs.
Okay. What are all those dads out there? What are they thinking? Right now, if they're listening to these jokes and they're saying, okay.
Yeah, those are bad. Let's see. What vegetable is cool, but not that cool? You know that one? What vegetable's cool, but just not that cool?
Don't know.
It's a radish.
Why me?
We need to add Craig's sound effects to the bumper bar there. The audible disgust. Oh, that is great. Oh, how about one more? Why did the orange lose the race? It's a distance race. Why did he lose the race?
Don't know.
She just ran out of juice, man.
Should have known that.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
This texture says, "You make choices, Dad. Jokes look good."
Okay. Jacob, are you a Star Wars guy?
Of course.
Are you a Star Wars guy?
I am familiar with Star Wars. I wouldn't call myself a Star Wars guy.
So I'm assuming that Yoda is in Star Wars. Is that correct?
That's true, yeah.
If Yoda could start a car dealership, what kind would he start?
Well, we're going...
A toy Yoda.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Toy Yoda.
You're horrible. You're horrible.
I would agree with that.
Do you know Honda was mentioned in the Bible?
Honda?
Yeah, the Honda.
No.
It says Jesus and his apostles were all in one accord.
This is brought to you by nobody.
I got a lot of Bible jokes, man. Growing up in the church, I got a lot of those. Do you know the only state mentioned in the Bible?
No.
It's in the...
Go ahead, spit it out.
Early on, Noah stepped out of the Arkansas. Old Razzle Dazzle says, apparently you can't use beef stew as a password. It's not Stroganoff. Stroganoff.
Oh.
Stroganoff. That's good. That's hard to say out loud. Let's see. The Indiana State Sycamores, I believe, are locked in a tight one with these Southern Illinois Salukis. This is the 8-9 matchup in the Valley Conference.
And you've got a connection to Texas Tech that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, Drew
for Southern
Steffi
Illinois.
there. Drew Steffi, who has started 17 games for Southern Illinois. Now, why are they calling this Arch Madness?
St. Louis.
Oh, it's in St. Louis. That's the dad joke right there. I just saw St. Louis pop up on the screen when I asked that.
That's like he's a scorer.
Right. Yeah, we get it there. Yeah.
Sponsored by McDonald's.
Yeah,
Well, it's
there you
like I was like, why is? I mean, it's the Enterprise Center. I don't understand why this is called Arch. Oh, St. Louis. Okay, all right. Yeah, but Drew Steffi from Frisco Memorial.
Isn't it
involved
neat?
with Texas Tech there for a minute?
These 8-9 games, 99% of the time, they're really good games.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch.
Just like in the NCAA tournament, that's a really good matchup generally.
Yep.
But it is 82-81 with about 2.5 minutes left. Indiana State has the ball. Indiana State, the darling last year, with what they call him, Larry Nerd.
Mm-hmm.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He had some pretty good nicknames there.
Yep.
Have you seen the nickname thing going around with the NBA, Jacob? I feel like you'd be the one to know this.
Some of them, yeah.
What was the new Jason Tatum one? The Anomaly? And that's what started it all?
I just know there's some. We can't really talk about it.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about.
A certain player for the Toronto Raptors is where my brain goes.
Oh, I don't think I know that one. They're calling what's the guy with two J names and then he's a junior?
Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Jaren Jackson? Yeah, they're calling him the alliteration.
Ooh, I like that.
It's pretty good. No, but apparently I'll try to find the video for you.
So does the media, do they get credit for these nicknames if they came up with it?
You know what? Probably used to is some guy in a paper, and you can track it back.
Yeah.
Now you'd have to be searching up on Twitter of what what random burner account started calling him that, and then it went viral.
Yeah. Well, Nico Harrison had a new nickname for Luka.
I can just imagine.
Fat.
Yeah. Oh, Luka.
I can just imagine. I bet Nico Harrison's got quite a few nicknames in Dallas right now that we can't discuss on here.
Yeah. Oh.
Bad at your job is another one of his.
The video the other night when Kyrie got hurt? The mass exodus.
Oh, the hundreds, maybe thousands of people.
Unbelievable. I mean, the aisles were full of people going the wrong direction.
And all the lights were on. It looked like the game was over. It was the third quarter.
Yep. Yeah, it was amazing.
100.7 The Score is the bottom line.
Bringing you the truth, or something like the truth. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back. 100.7 The Score. It is the bottom line. We have the NFL free agent tracker here as part of our headlines, and we'll do it with some headlines. Yesterday, the Commanders traded for 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Earlier in the week, at least it came out in the last couple days. Samuel has now put out a 2,000-word essay for the Players Tribune calling the departure bittersweet. Bittersweet. The 49ers have also informed their defensive tackle, Javon Hargrave, that he will be released on the first day of the new league year next week. The Commanders have brought back Zane Gonzalez. I think they had 17 kickers or something last year before Zane Gonzalez locked in finally, so they'll bring him back. The draftees for the 2025 draft are also visiting teams. And the Steelers have a quarterback on their campus. Do you want to guess what quarterback might get drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers early on that might have a connection to Texas Tech?
Shuck.
Tyler Shuck.
It's Tyler Shuck, yeah.
He is on the Steelers campus. He's part of a group of 30 that also includes offensive lineman from West Virginia, Wyatt Milo. I wonder if Taj Brooks will be in Pittsburgh. I've seen some mock drafts where he's involved with the Steelers.
He is a Pittsburgh-type back.
Yes, he is. In other news, DK Metcalf has officially asked for a trade. Or at least that is the reporting here. What will be in the return? Who's the most likely option? I do think the Cowboys would be a good fit. And they have created some cap space to potentially make some moves like that. So we'll see what ends up happening as we move forward there. Also yesterday, the Chargers released five-time Pro Bowl defensive end Joey Bosa. Bosa will be designated, I believe, as a league first day kind of release as well. He had 10.5 sacks a couple of seasons ago, but it's been maybe 4 years since he's really played a full season. And he's never really been truly healthy in his career, it seems like. He was kind of one of those guys where he was a can't-miss prospect, and then he just kind of was off his whole career from what his potential could have been. It peaked certainly a couple of times there early, but he never really, in my opinion, reached his full greatness. Certainly maybe his younger brother Nick has, but I don't know that Joey has. Max Crosby also here signing a massive deal, which resets the market for Micah Parsons' potential deal. Micah Parsons allegedly re-signing. Maybe that's why they're creating the cap space to re-sign Micah Parsons. Maybe he would be involved in a trade for DK Metcalf to get a couple of firsts back to then trade them for Myles Garrett. Who knows? Just spitballing there.
Interesting move by Kansas City. Their most valuable player, as elected by the team, I believe, Joe Thuney, is going to the Chicago Bears. That's an interesting move, especially as much as they need offensive linemen.
Yeah, and he was one that played left guard all year and then just played left tackle for 6 weeks. And I don't know that you could find any more thing valuable than that, a guy who could just switch and completely galvanize the offensive line by playing a different position.
And played, except for Philadelphia, which I don't know that any offensive lineman played well, but up until that time, played a remarkably good tackle position for not playing it all year. But that something like that tells you that they've got a plan to fix the offensive line. I don't know what it is, but because that's a move that you don't make lightly, I wouldn't think.
That's a first move for the Chiefs in a plan for maybe 6 moves.
Yep, that's probably
that's
right.
a chess move.
Yep.
A lot of NFL GMs make checkers moves. That seems like a chess move there from the Chiefs.
Yep.
Nickelodeon 3D chess move.
Yeah, exactly. Then, as I mentioned it just briefly, but as part of that cap restructuring, it was CeeDee Lamb 2 days ago and Dak Prescott yesterday, with a total of, I believe, $56 million restructured. Now, sometimes people misunderstand what restructuring is. They're still getting paid the same.
Right.
They're not deducting any pay. They're just moving it around. The Eagles do this really well. They just kind of keep moving and moving and moving. In Major League Baseball, you can just pay a guy in 50 years. In the NFL, you just kind of have to move it 2 or 3 years down the line. And sometimes it bites you, and sometimes you have a bunch of dead space in a season, and you can't really do what you want to do. But if you win Super Bowls in the meantime, who really cares?
Something told me that Dax is going to get a pretty good bonus this year. His income tax might be a little hard to figure out.
That's they're converting salary to bonus and whatever else. But they've already signed Adigazawa, which I think is a good signing. I don't know if it's a great signing as a solo move, but if it's in combination with some things, I think the Cowboys offseason is off to a better start than it was last year, for sure.
Are you surprised that Trey Lance has not been used as trade bait and is not been mentioned very much as going someplace here or there?
I wouldn't get him for
to
anything
me,
but a
Trey
6th-round
Lance
pick.
and Cooper Rush, that's ditto. One's not any better than the other.
Yeah, you can't pay Trey Lance again.
Yep.
But I don't know that he's – I think this is his final year. So I don't know that I don't think he can be traded. I think he'll just be – I don't think they'll re-sign him. I don't know that he's a Cowboy right now.
Yeah, okay.
Just as far as his contract is run.
Yeah.
I guess starting next week he won't be a Cowboy. I think that's true. Because in the middle of the season I was frustrated they weren't using him after Dak got hurt just for that.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as Dak goes down, because I think it's before the trade deadline, just play him. If he has a massive game, trade him immediately.
Yeah.
But, they didn't.
Are you
do
of
that.
the theory that you can get a running back in the draft and not to spend free agent money on one?
In the grand scheme of things, yes. If you're asking me specifically about the Dallas Cowboys, I would say no, because you need 2 or 3, because you don't have one. Because Rico Dowdle's also a free agent.
Yeah.
Now, if you're re-signing Rico Dowdle and getting a drafted guy and then maybe a cheap free agent, yeah, but you need a full room in Dallas. So generally, I would say draft a running back.
Yep.
For the Cowboys, I think you need to do both because you need a room of running backs and not just one guy.
It all comes down to if Genty is right there at pick 12.
No. Now, never draft a running back in the first round. I will stick by that. I'd rather have Taj Brooks in the 5th.
Well, that's also because you love Taj Brooks.
I'd rather have, Hampton's probably early 2nd round. I'd rather have R.J. Harvey in the 5th. I'd rather have, I don't know about Fraudy Gordon, but there's
disgusting, gross.
Yeah, let me look at a list of running backs, and I probably have a bunch of them rather than. I'd rather have Devin Neal in the third.
Genty's a game changer. He's gonna change.
Do you
the
need
landscape.
a power running back? Do you need a scat back? Do you need what kind of running back do you need?
Yeah,
all of the above.
The answer is yes, Craig.
I think with Schottenheimer, you want a power back.
Yep.
I think that's what you want. And yes, Ashton Genty, I think, will be a very good pro, but you don't have an offensive line right now. And you don't have, a defensive line that's full of players. You need a linebacker. You probably need another wide receiver unless you're trading for one. I mean, you definitely need another wide receiver. You need running backs. You need everything. You need everything except quarterback. Oh, he's not good. I don't care. 100.7 the score is the bottom line. These guys will tell me I'm wrong after this.
Bringing you the truth, or something like the truth. This is the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back, 100.7 The Score. It is the bottom line. It's time for Tell Me I'm Wrong, which both Craig and Jake will have an opportunity to do. But first, I need to hear a little bit from Tim Tadlock. Can we hear about the pitching after Tyler Boudreau's quality start yesterday?
Well, that's an interesting question right there because that was the fifth guy we ran out there as a starter today, and by far he was the best one, right? And so how do you really know this early? You just don't know. And so you got this weekend to try to figure that out, and it's okay if it's not perfect every day. You can, it's fine. So, but you'd like to think that you keep running guys back out there, they're going to get their feet on the ground and get going, right?
They're going to get their feet on the ground and get going. Can I also just hear about finding the best spots for position players? And I think the question started with TJ Pompey.
Well, really, you're just looking at it, you're going, hey, can you get some guys an opportunity and maybe get him, a rest, kind of what you're saying. Bain works really hard, hits left-handed pitching, is a good matchup. And Schultz, is a guy that you'd love to get going. And so there's two sides to it. I don't know where Schultz fits. I don't think it's third, but he's very sure-handed. Catches the ball really good. We all saw that in the fall, and we wanted to take a look at it yesterday, even though I don't think there's any, like I told Jamie before the game, I do think we know who our best guy is at each spot. I really do. I think it's pretty clear now. The good thing is we're 3 weeks in, 3 weeks and change in, and we've tried different things, and we kind of know moving forward. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still competition, but TJ is our best third baseman. Tracer's our best overall package at short. And you can go around the guys that played today and go, okay, hey man, like these guys, and again, like I'm gonna tell you, Kendall Johnson's coming. I told him that before the game today. Looks like he's in a really good spot offensively, and so I don't know if I answered that question exactly, but TJ, he works hard and he stays prepared, and he handled that really.
All right, so some things are falling into place, it sounds like, for Tim Tadlock. Now, they're 3-8, but really the biggest issue to me over the last week, the defense had been improved. You didn't have errors 2 games in a row. You still lost those 2 games 12-8, 11-10. You had 1 error early on against UC Irvine, but your offense scores 13 runs. You finally hold the other team to a low number. What I'm going to say is Tyler Boudreau, in his start yesterday, saved Texas Tech's baseball season. Tell me I'm wrong.
Saved. That's a big word. Rob, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
Wrong in the sense that I think it's way too early. I realize that conference play is right around the corner, but he did go a long way in providing a light at the end of the tunnel on the pitching staff. And I think what's going to save the season is if Boudreau's performance is sort of like a point guard on basketball. If he can use that to make others better on the mound, then save is the correct word. If his performance gives others confidence, and I would agree with you. But right now, save it. Maybe a little strong.
Go ahead. No, I'll give you more context, I think, to why I said this after Jacob here.
Let's just hear it for the Canadian players who I can't tell you're wrong, Rob, purely because Boudreau, his way of coming to Texas Tech, my accent came out, was really unique. Just coming from like Alberta to Midland College, spending a couple years there and playing really well, comes to Tech and gets his first opportunity to start, and he's lights out. Like, it was, even if watching him in person, it was like a completely different experience than the other games I've been to previously. And I think if they can utilize him and if he can develop into that sort of ace, that sends you places. And I think bringing in the confidence of the other players, and they had the two guys who relieved for just a couple innings were really good as well. If you can find a guy who can play at the top of the line as a starter, it opens up so many different avenues.
All right, if you were listening to the show yesterday, not this show, but the end of the bench, toward the end of the show I said, if Texas Tech doesn't perform well at Grand Canyon, I have some things to say about this team in a negative sense. But last night, I think Tyler Boudreau went a long ways to correct some of what I was thinking. Now, it's just one game. It is just one game. And again, if they go to Grand Canyon and get beat 2 out of 3 or 3 times, it's silly to say that Tyler Boudreau saved the season. But to me, early on in Vegas, in North Carolina, in Game 1 against the Tritons, it just didn't feel like Texas Tech was playing with the Tim Tadlock edge at all. There was a ball hit at Damian Bravo in the outfield, and he kind of took a bad angle at it, but then it was just a jog to go get the ball, and then kind of a double tap to throw it back in. That's the first game against the Tritons here in Lubbock. And I saw that play as a kind of a microcosm, because it just didn't feel like the team was playing with much urgency. But then you have a guy like Boudreau get on the mound and is screaming after strikeouts and doing the strut. And you see a little more pop and fire with the offense and the bats. Now, you saw that the day before on the offensive side, but there just doesn't seem to be much defensive urgency. But there was yesterday. You had the big play at first, and I think Villanueva is a guy that really wants to play good defense. And I think if you kind of breathe that kind of aggressiveness into this defense that you seem to have on offense, that kind of aggressive feel on offense with a couple of guys stealing bases and going for extra bases and hitting doubles and ripping home runs, if you have that kind of intensity offensively, it should be some defensive intensity somewhere in that dugout. And I think Boudreau might have unlocked some of it yesterday. So that's why I kind of think it, not just, one good pitching start, right, the game is saved. No, I think you might be unlocking some intensity defensively, and you have to have it.
Yeah,
you have to have it. Some urgency.
Great points. And in the back of my mind, that's kind of what I was thinking about being a point guard. You've got to make those guys better. And he may have done that yesterday. He may. just look at the two that followed him, Drake and I don't know who was the other one, Beavis.
Yeah, Logan Beavis.
I mean, they both pitch really well, and Beavis has had other opportunities, so it may have spilled over just in that game only. But you're right, that Tadlock edge, as you called it, has got to be there, because when we play with that edge like that, we're pretty darn good, and I'm real anxious to see what they do with Boudreaux now. Do they come back and pitch him Sunday? Do they wait and not pitch him at all until the opening, conference series, or what do they do?
Yeah, do you give him a long relief role on Sunday to kind of set him up to be the guy on Sunday the following week? Because I don't believe have a midweek the next week.
Yeah.
No, it's straight to Houston.
I'm gonna read this one because it says we're probably not gonna read it, so I'm gonna read it. You guys are welcome to disagree, and you probably won't even read this out loud. But for the last 5 years, the only time our pitching staff as a whole experienced any level of upper level success was when Ray Hayward was involved. Our current pitching coach is not the right guy. Now, I could be wrong. Ray Hayward stepped away from the program for a time with some health issues.
You are correct.
He's back, though. He's involved. He's not listed as an assistant because you can only have a certain amount of assistants.
I think his title is special assistant to the head coach or something like that. Yeah.
Around.
Yeah.
He's helping the pitchers. He's coaching, right? He's at least around involved.
Yes. And that's to our advantage. I'm a big Ray Hayward fan, and could not agree.
100.7 the score. It's
more.
Bottom line.
This has been the Bottom Line Podcast from 100.7 The Score. Go to 100-7thescore.com for more from the Double T Sports Network.